Amaya's grandmother who was dying for 2 hours. Then I went to one of our players' house in this business for 2 hours that lived by there. Then I went back to the grandmother's house for 2 hours. Drove home, fell asleep by a little bit after midnight, up at 5:30, worked out. I felt myself neglecting Amaya, my 16-year-old, because I've been doing so much stuff and traveling, and I gave a bunch of love to the kids the last couple of days. So I'm like, Maya, I'm gonna take you to school today. So I dropped her off, took her to Starbucks, dropped her off at school, came in 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing grind messages with Josh Lager. 9 o'clock, I'm here right now. It's exhausting to be great. Text messaging my mother-in-law, did you get any sleep? It's exhausting to be great. That's why I can't sleep the extra hour. I had to get up. I'd love to sleep. I need that hour and a half to get my together, to serve Amaya, to serve my mother-in-law, to be ready to serve you. I couldn't. I'd love to get it. I can't. There's a leadership lid. And when you have good people, the only way to do 100,000 a week is to have really good people. Well, if they're really good, there's gonna come a point where if you can't serve them anymore and you're not pouring into yourself, where you're not pouring into them, they don't want nothing to do with you. They'll pour into you, you pour into them, but if they don't have nothing that you're pouring into them because you're not pouring into yourself, those people want to get the hell away from you. And so that's why it's vital for you to constantly be pouring into yourself. The only way I feel like to raise your leadership lid without doing it over 40 years is books, audio books, podcasts, and mentorship. Mentorship from others, and books, audio books, and podcasts. And the more you spend time with the right mentors and the more you get books, audio books, and podcasts, the more you're gonna realize that 90% of the world thinks that the top 10% are nuts for doing what they do. But the top 10% never think that you're nuts for doing what you do. You know what I mean? Like I text Trust yesterday, we didn't get our date set for November. My dude texted me at 5:45 in the morning back. Boom, books me the date. Bang, 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 bang. Guarantee Saturday or Sunday, he's gonna be doing something with work and something with family. He's gonna find a way to do both. At 67 years old, 65, 67 years old. I say that stuff, man, just to tell you how when you start spending time around people that excel, you don't feel like a piece of dad for sacrificing, because all of those people do and did. When you start hanging around people that excel, you don't feel like a piece of you worked on Saturday or made a couple calls on a Sunday, because all of them people do. Like I'm talking about, Tress was the head of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, the FCA. He said during the season, on Sundays, they had to be in the meeting room, the coaches, at 1 o'clock. So he's like, people would come up to me and tell me, man, my church, we ain't done by it. He's like, well, you need to find a new church, a different service. You know what I'm saying? Now that, we can't do all that here. He's paying coaches that are making 6 figures, and that's their passion and their dream and all of this stuff. So you can't coach that, but you can start coaching MGAs like that when you're an RGA. You know, you can coach top dogs, you know, like that.
How much time would you suggest to spend? Because eventually you're gonna have to roll that into the family time too.
Yes.
So if Steve works for me, I'm gonna take him out, incentivize him with his wife and my wife.
2 birds with 1 stone.
So where do you draw the line where you need
just your own time,
separate time with your spouse?
Yep.
And how much time do you spend with the people that you're trying to build?
Love it. Great question. People drop this ball all the time. So, I feel like you can feel it. Like I was saying, I felt like I was neglecting Amaya. She didn't say that.
People's attitude.
I just felt it. In my own, I just felt it myself. I'm doing the math in my head like I was in Florida. So you feel it. I feel like you can feel it. I remember watching TD Jake say, you're always gonna, whatever you are focusing on, you're taking away from something else. So if you're zoned in on the business, you're taking away from your family. If you're zoned in on your family, you're taking away from the business. So he was saying, try not to hold anything too long to where it affects this over here. It's like a juggling thing. Like, you can't hold this ball too long with that one in the air. Throw this one up, catch this one. Boom, throw that one up and catch this one. That's why it's exhausting. It's exhausting to be great. And so I would try to blend as much as you can when there's time to kill two birds with one stone, to where you can build relationships. You take your spouse out, their spouse out, stuff like that. But I would go back to scheduling things with people. Like, I feel like the people that I've mentored and spent time with that have families would probably say I've tried to force them more to spend time with the family than I have to force them out to work. You know what I mean? So I try to make sure those people are getting the amount of time that they need with the family versus forcing them into working when they want to be with the family. So I would try to gauge with these people, Greg, you know, how much time do they feel like they need that's healthy for their current situation in their life? You know, maybe they need one date night a week, and you make sure that they're scheduling that in their schedule. And no matter what you got to do, you got to make them get this freaking date night. You got to try to find a way to get them. And the hardest ones to do it with is the high performers, because they don't want to do it. They want to do it, but they don't want to do it because they know that they're missing something over here. And you got to be comfortable with and talk to these people with understanding. Like, listen, I'd rather you get the family 100% right, and maybe you got 80% of you over here, but you give 100% while you're wherever you are. So when you're with your family, try not to, during those times, try to be where you're at. Try not to, and it's so hard to do. But when you're with the family, try not to do work. Try not to focus on the work. Try not to do the work when you're spending that quality time with your daughter, spending quality time with your wife or spouse. And then when you're at work, try not to zone out and be focused on them, because now, like, you should be all in here or just all in over here, but it's hard to do. It's easier said than done. But I would schedule those times with the people in a calendar where you have the one-on-one time with them, so it's not winging it. Like, schedule it in a calendar, looking at your for the month, look at your for the week, and say, okay, I know if I spend this much time with the kids, if I spend this much time with my wife, we're gonna be healthy. The family is healthy. And I would rather you solidify the family being healthy and delay our goals by 3 months than this, and then now we delayed this for years, or we lost the family in the process. You know what I'm saying? And you can't blame the business, you blame yourself when that stuff happens. You know what I mean?